Good evening and welcome to the May 14th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. If everyone will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thanks for those of you that tuned in out there in the cable land, and for those that are here with us this evening. A little bit of a late start. We had a meeting with the town attorney early here tonight, so any announcements from the board? Sensing none, we'll move right along. We have one appointment this evening. We've invited Superintendent Davis from RSU 57 to come in, talk a little bit about the budget and the warrant, and we'll get to when people should be aware of voting dates before all said and done tonight. So, Dr. Davis, if you want to step right up, and you folks, you can chime in if you have any supporting flooding data.
We're here to give you the support.
And I think really it's just a matter of, if we can go through the bullet points, or however you want to do it. All we're interested in is how did we get to where we are, and we understand that it's a challenge as each year goes on.
To say it's a challenge this year is a bit of an understatement, and of course, as I've been telling people, this is somewhat of a perfect storm. We have at the state legislature efforts to scale back. Those impact all of us, the town as well as the school district. You're dealing with potential loss in revenue of revenue sharing, and we're looking at potential loss of revenue in new expenditures. One of the things that the board has had to contend with this year is that we have a declining student population, which results in fewer dollars from all revenue sources. We have a state legislature that's contemplating a governor's proposal to transfer the cost of retirement from the state to the school district, which of course equates to the current taxpayers. We have the sequestration at the federal level, which we know is going to result in 15% loss of revenue for Title I, which is a fairly big revenue source for our school district. And you start putting those things together in combination with the increase, the natural increase in cost of what we deal with. We had our hands full at the start of the budget season. I provided each of you and your staff and members of the audience with the supplement that we've recently mailed out to the greater 6 communities. You may have seen this, and I'll use this as a way of articulating what the board is proposing and what we're advocating for the community to move forward with in order to maintain the school program that they have come to appreciate. In building the budget, we knew that we had a serious shortfall between expenditures and revenue. And in order to confront that without any changes in revenue, it represented just shy of $2 million difference between the projected budget needs and the projected revenue stream. I put forth a fairly substantial plan to eradicate that. As a result, we found that the community was unhappy, to say the least. About 200 people showed up to a couple of different meetings, stating very clearly that they believe that the eradication of as many things as I had proposed in order to get to that $2 million mark, or close to $2 million, $1.75 million, was far in excess of what they believed they had signed up for as a community, and they would like the board to reconsider a plan that would not drastically reduce the budget as much as I would put forth. So the board went to work, I went to work, and we've come up with what we have here today. And actually, in terms of budget allocation from last year, it's up less than 1%. But of course, the fact that most people understand is that the shifting of costs from Augusta to the local level is really what is the different portion of the picture. So if I could ask you to reference what I call the first page, and that starts out with my letter and then the local assessments down below. We have presented to you the local share of each community, and of course Waterboro is where we're speaking from this evening, that becoming the most of most interest to you. The local share for 12-13 was just over $7 million. Local share under this proposed budget, $7.4 million, an increase of $400,000 or 5.61%, based on a local property of approximately $180,000. That represents a $139 increase, or $11.65 on a monthly basis. And you can see our calculations for all the other communities as well. On the inside, gets to the essence of what's going on with the budget. We've tried to show you in a pie chart just exactly what the revenue picture looks like. You can see, as in most organizations that are heavily populated with people, that's 59.2% of our revenue goes towards, it comes from local assessment, 35% comes from state subsidy. And that number has continued to decrease over the years. Balance forward a little bit, around 4%. Non-tax revenue, 7%. Those would be federal funds, things of that nature. And then revenue from adult education, 0.3%, pretty small portion. Our expenditures are what you'll see when it comes to the warrant. They'll be numbered, obviously, but for this purpose here, we've presented regular instruction at $14 million. I won't read all of them, but some of those may catch your eye and generate some questions. You can see some are up and some are down. It was a pretty aggressive effort by the board, the administration, to get this budget to a place where they felt it both maintained a program that they were both proud of and felt that met the needs of students, as well as was consistent with what the community was asking for and felt like they could support. And you can see the total variance between last year's budget and this year's budget represents a change of $343,000. And on a $3 million budget, you can see that that's 0.956%, pretty modest. Pupil expenditures. I know we've had conversations with many community members about this. M.R.S.A ranks around 27th of those similar districts around the region, around the state, that are both similar size or in York County. We're far off the state average, which is around $9,700. We come in at $8,047, just ahead of Auburn and Oxford Hills. Our expenses, which is the second graph on that third page, salaries represent just about the same amount that we raise locally, 59%. Our debt, about 8%. Energy, 4%. Other expenses, 0.6%. Adult ed, 0.11%. Benefits is another large item, 16%. Services, 7%. Supplies, almost 3%. And equipment, 1.19%. Benefits was another area where we had an unexpected increase. Health insurance increased 13% this past year, which was significantly more than we had anticipated when we began building the budget. So that caused a last-minute revision to the budget process. We're going to have to do something about health insurance, and I don't know exactly what it is, because it's obviously an item of negotiations. But I just know that it's consuming more and more of our budgets, and I know that's not just the school district alone on that, that we're in the same boat as many organizations. But 13% to us represents a $500,000 increase, just 1 year in one item. And so that was a significant hit when you add the potential of retirement and the loss of state aid. So it has required the school district to send out notices of non-retention to multiple staff members, and even with the budget that we built, we were not able to maintain all the programs that we had once come accustomed to providing the students of our school district. But we all have to make some priorities and choices. The board has done that. We think that we can still operate an effective program with a reduced staff. We've not only reduced staff, but of course we went into the maintenance line, which doesn't have as many constituents and doesn't cry quite as loudly. But in order to do that, we obviously put some things on the back burner. The trick, the challenge, I shouldn't say trick, the challenge becomes not putting things off too far where you end up creating a bigger expenditure down the line. So we'll try to make sure we look at maintaining our buildings. As I've told people in the past, we're operating not just the largest educational institution in the region, we're operating the largest transportation organization, we're operating the largest food service organization. We're and we're doing that in addition to our primary responsibility of education. Of course, in order to do that, we need to provide those things. So I don't want to continue just talking on and on. I hope that gives you a basic overview of what we have done to maintain the program to the degree we believe we need to. At the same time, being responsible to the community, reducing where we feel we can, in order to bring you a budget that doesn't change substantially from last year, but because of the way Augusta has changed some of the rules, it does change the burden of expenses from Augusta to the local community, and we were well aware of that. Yes,
I notice in the per pupil expenditures that they had been going down up until a year or so ago. Was that because the enrollment was increasing until a couple of years ago and it started to drop off? So I noticed the per pupil expenditures that say in 2005-06 were $8,448, and it went up to $9,386 per student in 08-09, but then went down the next 2 years to 7,772. Were we increasing enrollment there?
You have been increasing enrollment until several years ago, and I think it's about 4 years ago, where you hit your peak, and you were about 3,700, and that may have been 5 years ago. But since that period of time, what we have watched is the population at a height of 3,700 now moved to 3,300, and we know that over the next 4 years, as a result of some work that you all have commissioned, that we anticipate our population declining to about 3,100 in the next 4 years.
And then after that, with the kindergarten, first, second, third grade, are they fairly small classes, or is it going to come back?
Right now, the average class size is about 275. The largest class that we have going through is our 9th grade class, and they're at 300. But they're the last class that breaks 300. We have nothing above them nor below them that anywhere reaches that. Our smallest class, it comes in around 249. This kindergarten class right now is coming in even less than 249, and we're projecting a loss of 40 students annually, 49 students annually for the next 4 years. Those are just people that we know have taken out birth certificates. So the projections do indicate that that the state of Maine being the oldest and more people dying than are being born, those are tough demographics on people who want to get on Earth here. It's just not a real good one.
So with the dropping off,
So we have dropping off of state aid, plus we have dropping off of population.
right.
And that state aid is dropping off in two ways. It's dropping off by a per pupil number, just because the sheer number drops, plus the state aid is beginning to decline as a responsibility.
I'm just looking in the future beyond this year, but if you continue to decline, I know one of your options was to close one or two elementary schools and consolidate there. That if it continues to drop off, there's going to probably be increased pressure to do something like that as your enrollment drops off in the smallest elementary schools. But you're getting a lot of pressure, I'm sure, from those communities that have had those schools over the years and want to maintain them.
It's the board is going to have to, and I've asked them, and they've committed to really buckling down and looking at developing a long-term vision for how we're going to cope with this. And there are two ways of doing it. You can cut your way out of it, or you can grow your way out of it. So one of the things that we are going to do is look at what is it we can do to attract new students to the district. And is there that possibility of developing programs for which students will gravitate into the district? If that's not a possibility, or that's not realistic to what the board wants to do, then how do we find a way of reducing expenditures in order to make that happen? Right now, the district is confronted with, and this happened well before I came here, you have schools that have empty classrooms. Now, to some degree, that's not unacceptable to the greater community. But when that relationship of empty classroom becomes really visible, and you're dealing with 2, 3, 4, 5 empty classrooms in a building, then your administration, your school board, begin to say, well, is that a very efficient way of operating a building? And so that's one of the questions we're going to have to pose. And right now, we know what our student population is going to look like over the next several years. How are we going to confront that? Because we have unused capacity, and that capacity is costing us X number of dollars to operate. And you asked me not only to educate children, but to operate the organization as efficiently as possible. And we're going to confront that issue. And as you're right, I'm probably one of the most unpopular guys right now, taking your place of being unpopular for a bit of time.
It'll only happen until the tax bills.
I know, but as long as I can relieve you of that. No one wants their school closed, and I appreciate and understand that. I've worked in small schools for quite some time in my career, but at the same time, you all have an expectation that my job is multifaceted, and education is about a portion of that, and operating an efficient organization is another portion of that.
Has the issue of retirement costs been settled?
No, it's not been settled. However, for the purpose of building this budget, I was fairly confident, or I remain fairly confident that the two powers that be in Augusta are not close enough to come together on it, so I suspect it'll be a stalemate this year. However, I don't know if that will last 2 years in a row.
So the budget does not include that increase?
It does not include that change, correct.
Now, the regular instruction is 14 million, and it says you got 5.5 million for special education.
Correct.
Is that is separate from regular instruction?
Special education is separate, yes.
And what percentage of students are in special ed?
We have a student population right around 18–19%, which is a traditional average throughout the country at this point in time.
It's a third of the total budget, instruction.
Of the instructional, not
Yes.
the regular instruction.
Now, what's the difference between system administration and school administration?
I would be representative of system administration. A principal would be representative of the school administration. So anything that operates out of the district office would generally be under system, and then regular instruction would be the principals, assistant principals, people in the administrative arm of the actual school.
Have we resolved, I think a couple of years ago, when the state first started lopping off pieces here, and we were in a different wage.
That's not resolved.
Okay, so
We're
that's
still
not
in the same.
resolved.
They don't
And-
even
and
want to
is-
look at it.
And do we have anyone advocating for us?
I'm not sure if
Libby
John's
and
got on that.
Tuttle?
What he's referring to is we've been put in the bracket of Sanford,
Oh,
the work bracket of Sanford instead of Portland, where we would automatically get a bigger percentage. I think that the legislators they're not going to fight that, and I don't know that I know that Joe Wagner was doing it for a while, but when he got voted out, I don't believe that anybody else has joined our bandwagon to do that.
I've not heard of it. It's not resonated with the legislators I've talked with at this point in time, and I suspect that may be because of some of the larger issues suck up more of the press at this point in time. This issue with the hospitals, for example, has gotten everyone's attention. The issue of revenue sharing obviously has gotten your individual attention. The issue of retirement certainly caught our attention, and I know that it's really sucked up a fair amount of our own energy. There's no collective will to move 57 by the other York County superintendents.
Are all the contracts settled now, or are they still in negotiation?
We have a contract with the ed techs, the administrators. We do not have a contract with the teachers, and there is no contract with the support staff. That is not an issue.
Okay. I mean, because I've got the budget, I went through the line budget that you had posted
On
online.
the website.
And the biggest increase in this budget is salary and benefits.
Mhm.
And I see where there's some reductions in things like books to offset the regular instruction to bring down the cost. And I guess that concerns me that we're seeing such a large increase in salaries and benefits at this point when there is a tremendous amount of money that's going to get shifted to the taxpayers. Private sector certainly are not seeing the wage increases that public sector employees are seeing. And I think it's a hard sell to the public to say, we're doing, the best for the kids, but the vast majority of increases throughout the entire budget is salary and wages and benefits.
And it's always going to be, just because of the sheer size of that, it's going to seem, the dollar amount is going to seem disproportionate, but in terms of percentage, it's not. But let me go back to your example of the books. Part of what you're seeing is a change in the way we deliver instruction, and we're going to be seeing much more apps and books come across the iPads than we are actually the hard copies. So that number is actually going to decrease for a period of time until that settles out, because we're doing two things right now. Some people are still hanging on to textbooks, but I think you're going to see, instead of a $50, $60 textbook being purchased, you're going to see, and every 5 years, you're going to see more like a $10 to $12 expenditure for an electronic version every year. So it's not going to be significantly different over time, but during this transition, there will be different lines that will go up and go down, and that would be that one example. But your broader point, are we having to cut other things? Yes, we are. If my first proposal went through, this line obviously would have been cut dramatically. My proposal was to cut nearly 40 different positions throughout the district, and you have about 260 professional staff at that level. But as you probably have read, and you may have heard from your neighbors, that was not a very popular position to take, and the board was not willing to go that route. And I wasn't wholeheartedly an advocate for it, but in terms of what would have to be done in the most drastic situation, that did represent what it would look like. And we will be getting down there, folks. We will be reducing staff regardless of the finances because of what's happening to the student population. what I need to figure out with the board is how can we do that and still maintain the operation of the current physical plants until such time the board says that that's no longer acceptable or we grow out of it in some way or another. I don't see the demographics of the region changing dramatically. As I said, the state is just getting older, and I think some of the studies that you all have commissioned recognize that there is a population shift coming to the region. So unless there are some new plants going in for economic purposes, I suspect we're the face of the average individual, and we're not new families. We're mid-career and pushing towards retirement.
And just to, I know you said what I probably heard from my neighbors. Actually, what I'm hearing from my neighbors is that they can't support such a large increase. My kids are grown up. I have 2 girls that went to M.R.S.A. My oldest daughter's in school to be a teacher. She wants to teach at M.R.S.A. someday. So, I have strong ties to the school. I volunteered and whatnot. But I think that people are really struggling with their taxes now. And, I was talking to an elderly lady who lives on the lake the other day, and she was asking me about what it's going to mean for her taxes and the increase and whatnot. And she's facing a challenge of, is it time for her to look at having to sell her property? Not that she wants to, but that the tax burden is going to be, okay, maybe it's $200 doesn't sound like very much, but to somebody who's living on a very fixed income is trying to scrape by on, her medical insurance and her COBRAs and whatnot. For her, something like this kind of an increase just isn't going to make it affordable for her to stay in a home that she's been in for a long time. So have you thought about when this goes to the referendum, if this budget doesn't pass, then do you have a plan B in place?
Well, actually, strange enough, the board chair said the very night that this budget was being put into motion. She turned to me before the vote. She said, "Do you have a plan B?" And I said, "Yes, we have a plan B."
Is that Mary? Grapevines?
No, actually, what I was going to ask you, because I know Heather and we live in the same town, and we have completely different views.
I've had one person tell me that it would be too much for her.
Mm-hmm.
I've had dozens upon dozens tell me that they do not want us cutting programs, do not want bigger class sizes, and that, they want to make sure that we're making, appropriate choices with the money, that we're, if we can reorganize, if we're going to continue to look at, can we close some of these smaller schools, or at least are we going to reorganize in some way? Are we looking at those things? Are we going to be looking at those things? And if we are, they're supportive. That's the feedback that I've gotten. And I've asked
the same people
for
you're
it.
talking to, because they said absolutely no.
Yeah. So I'm going to
can't
guess
afford it.
maybe are the folks that you're talking to people
Our
that have
parents,
children
yeah.
in school.
Yes.
So I think it depends on if you're
It really
talking
does.
to the parents, they have a different view than the people who no longer have children in school. And the people that I'm predominantly talking to are people that don't have children in the school system.
But for me, I believe that for this town to grow, to prosper, don't we need to invest in our children so that they learn to stay here, that they grow that love, that they build businesses or become teachers or work and grow in that way. I moved to this community. I chose this community. My husband has to work outside of the state in order to find work. And that's a challenge for us. I can't work because I don't know when he travels. So it's tight for us, but that's a choice that we've made. And I know a lot of families that do the same thing, that make those choices because they want this community and they want our schools to be strong. And if we continue to cut, we're going to be hurting our programs and we're going to be hurting our children.
It's hard to talk about averages because you always come up with individuals. When we're in the seats that we're in, we have some people come up to us and talk about taxes and how hard the taxes are for them. On the other hand, if you look at people as an average across the state and across the country, those people who are who do not longer have children in school are the wealthiest group of Americans. The 20 to 30-year-old group or the 30 to 40-year-old group is not as wealthy as the 50 to 60 or 60 to 70-year-old group. Now, there's going to be some people out there that say, I'm living on Social Security, and that's it. And what are you talking about? But I'm talking about averages. The average is that those people whose kids are out of school are wealthier than they've ever been.
Yeah, I think what you got is, this is like a catch-22. I mean, you got a state with an aging population. We've gone through a kind of a spurt in this community where we've kind of mitigated the aging population because of growth in other areas. That's now going to change, okay, unless there's significant, and there will be significant rollover, we'll say, in the Lake Arrowhead community, just like in some of the other developments early on in the 70s and 80s and whatnot. You know, you had the first affordable home for a family, and then they moved on, and somebody else moved in, and that was that first affordable home. So at some point in time, we will get a mix that's going to dramatically change, because I don't see any future growth spurt, residential growth spurt in the community. What we're trying to position the community for is the growth spurt economically, right? That we think is coming, because you got all of these, you get 7,800 people in this community. They have to either, you know, buy and work and those kind of things. And, you know, we've got, let's face it, we've got the three most important schools to our residents in the boundaries of Waterboro. The elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. So those are reasons to be here, right? So this becomes a kind of a vicious circle. In fact, you know, when does the population shift to, you know, the quote unquote non-supporters of childhood education versus, because we've all been, you know, in the earlier stages where the families were growing, and yes, we wanted the best education possible. It didn't matter if my taxes were $120 more a year, because that's what we wanted, right? That dynamic shifts a little bit. Naturally, we hear a lot of that because, you know, no matter what happens. The other thing that we hear, which is a kind of a misnomer, and anybody that's watching this tonight, I think Jamie Joe said it best a week or so ago, you know, people perceive that the selectmen control RSU's budget, okay? And we can, you know, kind of slap you down, right, if it gets too wild and whatnot. And it really is the people that control the budget. So those people that support it are going to come out and vote for it. Those people that don't, typically don't get out and vote, but if they have a strong voice, they should get out and vote. And it's really a sad state of affairs when you look at what the number of people that vote on RSU's budget is.
It's funny too, because I have to support you in that sense, John. I am a firm believer with John that I've been doing this for a lot of years. We need to do that 5-year plan. And if it comes to closing schools, and by you saying that, we're sitting with a middle school and high school right here, and anybody that lives in Alfred, Limerick, Lyman, Newfield, and Shapley, they don't have a problem with their kids going to the middle school and the high school in Waterboro. So why is it such an issue at the elementary school? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I support John, that we really...
It's a significant emotional
we need
event.
to, you're right, we need to really look at, and we're going to have to, or we're not going to have any teachers. And as far as negotiations, we've tried. It's just at a standstill. And it comes down to that.
I think it's the age of the kids.
Yeah.
Right? Right? I don't want my little tyke.
They don't want them on the bus for an hour at that age,
So,
and they don't.
even in Waterboro, some of them are on.
Yes.
Right, but some
Buses
of the
for a long
ideas
time.
that they've come up with, some of the kids are actually going to be on the bus less time than what they are currently if we switch schools around. And I just looked at it, to me, I wanted my kids to get the best education. Let's go and if I had choices of having a class of 20 to a class of 26, I don't care what town it was in.
Yeah.
To me, that was my philosophy, but that's not how people look at everything.
And I understand that I think the question came up on the retirement piece that the state keeps, and I think that was a LePage piece of legislation that's thrown in there. Probably won't happen in this legislative session, but eventually they'll chip away and it may. Does that become a moot point anyway? Because, well, I mean, I understand that we're gonna, but is it a negotiable item? If it comes back to the schools, is it truly a negotiable item? And I guess I would refer to healthcare. Is it truly a negotiable item, or is it really something that says, no, our healthcare is gonna come from
I don't think you can
the
negotiate that.
main teachers?
Actually, anything,
Okay.
anything is open for
I understand, but I mean, it really is, there will be a hierarchy in the Maine Teachers Association, right, that says this is what it is, right? But I mean, I would think that, I'm not sure what the rationale, other than getting it out of the state.
Oh, there it is.
But I understand that,
but I
but
think I can give you maybe a little clarification. What the state was proposing to do is to shift all the cost and half the revenue. And as you can assume, that next year will be all the cost and a quarter of the revenue. And the year after that, hopefully enough people will forget, and it will be all the cost and none of the revenue. So it is just another way of what I call it is the New Hampshireization of the state. And that's a philosophical belief, and you may share it, you may not, but it is that we want to reduce the cost at the state level and have it borne at the local level. The philosophy is that the local level, they'll be much more attentive to it and less likely to do things on a broader scale. And that's a perspective. And you may like that or you may not like that, but during the transition, that becomes a real charged issue, because there really aren't significant changes in taxation that go to the state at the same time the transfer of costs come back to the local level. And that's that conundrum of, are you willing to go through that transition to get to that point? And I suspect that would be the governor's way of articulating it. He would do it probably a little more loudly than I would, but nonetheless, I suspect that, in essence, what his point of view is, and as we know, he was elected. The rest of us were not, or people of a different point of view were not. So that's what's prevailing at this point in time.
One would hope, though, that just as regionalization, which I'm not sure was a great idea either, but but the motivation for that was to get more people to negotiate at a local level, right, and bring costs down. And if you were going to say we're going to drive certain things that have always been at the state level back so that you can negotiate those to maybe a more favorable package from a tax base, that's one thing. I don't see that played out in this at all.
Well, I think you will see over the next few years with those imperfect numbers that we're getting from Augusta, and you, like us, may not know until the 1st of July. I suggest, as we talk about healthcare with staff, it's going to be a couple of different things: a larger share of the individual taking care of the cost of our premium, and the second thing, I've talked with staff, and they're not quite ready to hear it yet. But is moving to a much higher deductible health savings account to reward those people who are active and remain healthy, and those people who are not still have coverage but don't see the large benefits that maybe the healthy people do. So that's one thing I've been talking about for a couple of years. We're going to have to get much more aggressive with it. If retirement does become part of the equation, I will be talking with the board and with the unions about, well, this is a set amount of money. How would you like to talk about dividing it up? Because we can't just continue to accept whatever changes might come from the state. It's a compensation issue. It's dollars moving away from the regular budget to a selected portion of the population, which is our staff. And that can't be 12, 11%, whatever it might be. It has to, that total package has to be X, and it's got to be something that we both can afford and maintain. I have to figure out how to generate the level of support that comes from the population that you talk about, Dennis, and that is individuals who no longer have children in school. There is a real value to education to the greater community, whether we have children in the school or not. And that becomes part of our mission, is to make sure we continue to articulate that with people and show them why the benefit of continuing to pay, even though they don't have children in school at this point.
Now, as a part of the regular instruction, does that include the benefits?
Yes, that would include the regular instruction staff,
Yeah.
and it would include all the aspects of it.
But I'm glad to hear you say that you are beginning to discuss various options that they need to look at, because it's very unfortunate that the district got hit with a major increase in the cost of the benefits, but a lot of districts didn't. Some of them went down. But on the other hand, it's life choices, how someone has lived, and you can't say. I guess people need to make some hard choices there, as far as what are you willing to pay for insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working in education, and this year we haven't settled a contract. Hey, we'll survive, But there's more to education than money, and I think people need to understand that. Teachers need to understand that.
What else?
I think just for the board, we need to make sure that the public understands how the process works from here, because we did get a couple of emails from some parents who was communicating to the board that they wanted us to raise taxes, and I think that there's a misconception out there that the school budget is our budget and we're the ones that set the budget and we're the ones that approve it, and we don't. It's up to the residents of the community to participate in the process. Maybe you could talk about the date that's coming up for the meeting and kind of how that's structured and how that works, so that folks understand that this is the school district that's put this budget together. You're the ones presenting it and taking the vote to approve it.
You bet. In our fair state, in our fair community, it's a two-step process. Obviously, the building of the budget was a fairly public document, and lots of input was gathered from that as well. May 21st, 7 o'clock at the middle school, we will have what is referred to as the community meeting or the annual meeting, however you want to reference it. It's where all members of the community can come and voice their opinion about the budget. And at that point in time, the moderator will take a vote on each of the articles, and as they're laid out here: regular instruction, special education, and you go right on down the list until you get to the bottom. This year we'll have one additional item on the budget, or on the warrant, excuse me, and that is whether the community wants to continue the validation vote process. The validation vote process is the second part of the building of our budget, and that is when community members can go to their individual town and vote on the work of the community meeting. And so at that point in time, that's June 11th, your polls will be open, and the second step of the process of building and approving the budget validation vote, will occur, and we encourage people to come out to both the meeting, the public meeting, where we set the budget for the voters to vote on, and we hope that you will both turn out, voice your opinion about the budget. Articles can be amended, and then additionally on the 11th, you come out and you vote behind the ballot, behind the curtain, as to what you say on the ballot. So as much as we'd like to have you take responsibility, it's not the process. You're correct. You are advocates for your community. You are people that we come and talk to, but ultimately it's the citizen who has full control of this process. Not only do they elect you all, they elect our school board. There are 3 members from each community, and between the 2 of you, you set the the agenda for our greater community, both educationally and non-educationally. So, appreciate having the opportunity to talk with you. Good to meet you again.
Well, I think it's good to go through this, and I know I wasn't here, but Mary, and I don't know if Heather was
Lisa.
here.
Lisa
The three, you and Lisa went
Yeah.
through slideshow and the whole work, so I think the more,
And I know Dave had a problem, an issue with the Delta Ed. Did you get that resolved? Because someone was supposed to contact you. Do you still have some
I
questions?
never got
you
any
can go?
information. Mike, I was interested in how does it work? I mean, you raised $500,000, 400,000, whatever it was,
400.
for adult education. What does the individual student pay for that?
Okay, it's not there's not a set number of dollars that individual student pay. It depends on the program they're engaged in. So, for example, if you're a GED student, that is a service the state provides, and we're a provider of that. If you're taking volleyball or jazzercise or some exercise program, there's a fee associated with that. For example, the state provides our school district with $100,000, $101,000. Fees generate $60,000. There's a carryover about $46,000, and the district, our local district, provides $190,000. That should add up to, in rough numbers, the budget that you see before you. So it's a combination of resources, both state and fees, as well as the district support.
Philosophically, I can see the GED program being free because it's good for the country, it's good for the community to get people finish high school, and I think in a way it's an obligation as long as a person has the will to go. Maybe we should pay for it. The next level of people, though, the people that are coming in for the art or in all the other areas, shouldn't that philosophically pay for itself?
Well, most of those do through the fee schedule. So if you want to, if it's a recreational program, you are indeed paying through fees to help support and make that program go. So I don't think we disagree on that. I suspect we could probably find a course or two that we might, but if it's a general recreation, a general human interest type course, then there are fees associated with that, and people are paying their way in order to make that go.
Have you broke it down though, Mr. Davis? I mean, the fee is what, $20?
Well, that fee generally is going to help support the cost of the instructor, and some courses will be more expensive than others because there are fewer students engaged in it, or there's just a high interest and a hard to get person. But those things are those are programs such as, well, I'll use driver's education as an example. That is a pay-as-you-go program. We don't support that program at all.
No, you don't, and it pays for itself.
It does.
And I mean, times are tough, and I think that adult education needs to be looked at. I think fees need to be increased. I mean, that's just my feeling.
Okay.
I mean, the kids, they had a chance to go to school once. And there's
Well,
a lot-
these are continuing ed people. These are not all folks who've dropped out of school.
Well, then they should be paying for their way then. If I go back and get recertified or whatever, I pay in my system for my courses. Well, I don't know.
Is it safe to say that with the exception of GED courses, that all other courses offered under the umbrella of adult education are paid for by the person taking that particular subject, or are there subjects that are subsidized?
Well, not having a list in front of me, I don't want to make a blanket statement, but by and large, you were correct. Outside of GED, most courses are subsidized or paid for in whole by the student who's engaged in it. Now, driver's education is a great example of a program that the student does pay for in total. But we have obviously people who are operating the program for us, night school principal essentially. We have staff, and there are some associated costs with them, and that's how we get up to the $200,000 mark. The rest of it is borne by the individual.
I would, when you get a chance, I'd like to see a breakdown of that, because I don't,
Okay.
you're saying the state gives 100,000, the district kicks in 190,000, and you take in $60,000 in fee. I mean, how many students are getting a GED?
Well, of course, the program is much broader than that, but I'll be glad to get you a breakdown.
And overall, it's peanuts.
Yeah,
But it's an issue that I would like to understand.
but it's a one of interest to you.
It's a quarter of a percent of the total.
That's,
Those quarters add up after a while.
Yeah.
Anything else? Well, we certainly thank you, Dr. Davis, for coming in, and Mary and Heather, and appreciate the input. Hopefully those that have tuned in tonight have a little clearer picture of what's going on, and I will remind everybody it is the 21st, 7 o'clock. Be there early because you have to register as a registered voter to go in and vote. But the meeting kicks off at 7. So.
I think too that what we need to make clear, and Heather and I have had this discussion numerous times over the years, a lot of people when they go to that meeting on the 21st, they think that their job is done. I voted for it, I okayed everything, and they don't follow up and go to the June 11th, and that's where we see the disconnect there. That first meeting, yes, that brings it forward,
Right.
but the June 11th is what really passes or not passes that budget.
And unfortunately, the June 11th, people look at this thing that says, do you approve of this flat
That's
number?
exactly right.
And they go,
They don't know what, it's either yes or no. There's no explanation to it.
so
on
it is,
June 11th.
it is a little bit.
Yeah.
In all their infamous wisdom, the legislature came
Yeah.
up with a winner. Yeah. So,
I appreciate your
be a
attention
little
tonight.
facetious.
Yeah.
Appreciate the question.
Now, this meeting on the 21st, just so that people know, it's not just for Waterboro residents.
Oh, no, it's all the residents,
It's
all
all
the
the
town
districts
clerks
that-
will be there, all the town clerks will be there, they'll all have different colors for each town. So when they vote, each town clerk has to count for each one.
And at the time of the general election, they vote in their
Their
individual
individual
Respective
towns.
towns.
Yeah.
towns.
But, and like Dennis said, it's just a yes or no.
Yeah.
See, when they do the meeting on the 21st, the moderator, thank you, goes through everything, explains the amounts, explains what it's for, and then we do what the board member will first it, second it, and then the whole place votes on it.
It's a very organized
It
presentation.
is.
It is
Yes.
actually.
But if they don't
I think
follow
everybody
through
ought to
with
be
that-
there, because you really, if you don't know much about the school budget, you'll learn in an hour.
You know,
Quite a
maybe, maybe we should have a meeting, that's a Tuesday night, right? Maybe we should have a meeting a bit earlier so we could get there.
Well, we'll make space for
Yeah.
you.
We can talk about that as we go through the night. Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. All right, back to my file here somewhere. Spending too much time looking at commitments. All right, hearing a delegation. Any of you out to the left out there would like to speak?
Come on down.
Correspondence quickly, treasurer's report, weekly treasurer's report, Representative Aaron Libby's newsletter, letter from Senator Tuttle, municipal officers' reason proposed budgets, 2012 annual solid waste management report, motor vehicle agents April 2013 report, and corrected January 2013 report. Letter from Maine DOT, reason Edith Hughey Road and Whitehouse Road speed limits. And lastly, the planning board agenda for 5:15. Anybody wishing to get a copy of those, please contact Christina. Reports of staff initiatives, code enforcement officer has left the building, so will not be reporting tonight. Saco River Corridor, I see no one here. Selectmen's report. David?
Nada.
John?
No.
Tammy?
12 town group last night. 7 communities represented. We had 3 different presenters last night. It was a very good meeting. First guest speaker was Leo Rogers, who's the new EMA director. He just introduced himself, where he came from, how he got to be the EMA director, and kind of talked about what some of his goals are. And he said that his focus is going to be getting EMA back to the quality of service that it provided back when Bob Bowman was in charge. That's what has been passed down by his superiors, and that is his main focus, is making sure that EMA is representing as well as they have in the past. They're going to be doing a number of public events so that people get to see them out in the public, get to know him. I think he's going to kind of try to be a member or a regular attendant at our 12-town group meetings so that he can kind of stay informed on what's going on in the different communities. He talked a little bit about Code Red. The Code Red initial test that county did was actually a few days before he started. When he walked in, it was a mess, and he recognized that things did not go properly with Code Red. He is not looking for municipalities that have it to lose any local control, but they're going to be working on that, and so hopefully Matt will be up on what's going on with that. He also talked about EMA would like to know if any communities are having any mass gatherings, when they are. So, for example, Old Home Days, they want to make sure that they're aware of something like that that's going on in our community. They're going to be doing a number of tabletop exercises, something they haven't done a lot over the past few years, but they'll get back into that. And that's to make sure that if there's some kind of disaster or whatnot, then they are prepared. Finally, he said each community should check and make sure that we have different folks from our community that are on their contact list. As he's looking through, he's realizing that a lot of communities just have the EMA director, and some EMA directors are only volunteers, maybe aren't passing information on as they need to, so we should make sure that we have, probably, Matt is our EMA director, but Nancy, making sure that you're on that list, or having a backup. Paul Shoemaker came in from Southern Maine Regional Planning. He just wanted to talk about what Southern Maine Regional Planning has been up to over the past few years. He said that they're starting to see an increase in economic development in the inner York County areas, and they have services available that they're willing to work with communities. They have several workshops that they are offering over the next couple of months. The list is available on their website. Some of them are for planning board members, some of them are geared at elected officials, but all these trainings are free, and they're typically in Sanford. So if you have an interest in any of those courses, it's online. He talked about some monies and grants that the Southern Maine Regional Planning has had, so that's something that we could, again, look into with them. And they are looking for more elected officials to participate in their executive board. That's a group that meets once a month or once every other month. They've had a number of kind of town managers or CEOs that have been on the board. They want to make sure that they're getting more elected officials. Our last speaker for the night was Bonnie Pothier. And I think she really had a lot to say that excited the group. Bonnie works for Angus King. She's basically his eyes and ears in York County. She's the regional representative for York County. What Angus King has decided to do is he is closing all of his offices. He's only going to have a few key offices open across the state, one in Augusta, one up in northern Maine, and I think one in Westbrook. And instead of having offices of for people to go to him, he's sending his representatives out into the community to go to the people. He just sees this as a better opportunity to stay in touch with his constituents. So we will probably be seeing Bonnie come into one of our meetings to introduce herself, and what their plan is. They'll be holding constituent hours in each community. They will be holding different workshops and different events to try and get the public more engaged in conversation with Angus King's office. So we'll be seeing her coming in. She's also going to attend our 12-town group meetings on a regular basis. She's very open to any contact from anybody within the community. She wants to get to know each select board, council, mayors, administrators, and I actually had her as a teacher years ago, and she is a very energetic woman. She was the mayor for Biddeford for a couple of years when she was Belanger. So she's no stranger to politics. So that's going to be, I think, a nice endeavor. Finally, we talked about LD 1496. It's pretty well settled that the governor's budget is dead. Even if there's going to be enough Republicans that are going to come over to the other side that they'll be able to veto it. So then it becomes a question of what's going to replace it. So the LD 1496, it looks like that's probably going to be what is put in place. Right now there's some preliminary work that's done. If you go on MMA's website, they have some information on MMA's website, and basically what it does is it shifts the tax burden out so that it's more of an even keel. It looks at increasing sales tax to 6%, but only 5.5% of that would go to the state, and the other half would stay with the business. So that's a means of trying to generate businesses within the state. It's a simplified 4% tax rate. There's fairness credits. There's corporate tax. It does include an increase to lodging and meals. There would also be an increase in what the base is. If, for example, groceries, all groceries would be taxable. Some services would be taxable, like somebody who cuts firewood and delivers firewood, that would become a taxable service. So I would suggest looking at the information. It's fairly lengthy. We just got it last night, so I had a great opportunity to look through it. I think there's some positives to it. I see some negatives to it. It definitely would have fiscal impact on the municipality. So I think that that's something that we kind of have to look at. But it seems that this is going to have the support to get through. And by July 1st, if they haven't done something, then state government is shutting down.
Now, did you say 4.5% goes to the state and the 0.5% stays to the business?
It would be a 6% tax rate, 5.5% would go to the state, and half would stay with the business.
The business?
With the business.
So Portland is going to make it like a South Portland. I mean, that seems like a very weighted.
Think about like somebody like Walmart. They're going to collect 6% sales tax, and then they're going to keep 0.5% of that. And I guess what the philosophy with that is it's a means of attracting business into the state, because it's a financial benefit to the businesses.
Yeah.
And one thing about sales tax, it's great if the economy's on a climb. You get more tax, and it's less burdensome. But when it turns the other direction, now you lose revenue. So it's a lot more. When you get into the sales tax, there's a lot more ups and downs. As long as there's ups, it's great. When it turns to downs, you lose loads of revenue.
And there's some changes to the homestead exemption, increasing tobacco taxes, service provider tax, progressive real estate tax transfers, 15% auto rental tax, an increased tax on beer and wine. The sales tax base expansion include amusement, entertainment, recreation, prepared foods, necessities such as groceries, heating fuels, electricity, water, publications, funeral services, barbershops, beauty parlors, health clubs. a number of other things. So it's quite extensive.
Okay.
So $14.96, I suggest everybody take a look at it.
So we gotta dive in before, so we don't get taxed?
Yeah.
That it, Amy?
Yeah.
Gordon? I attended briefly a 2020 presentation last night over at the fire department, as well as select persons Woodson, Gale, and Gerard. And I believe the town administrator was there behind me. And it had to do with the studies and so forth that they had undertaken to see, predominantly they were talking about one of the best places in town to have a business or industrial park, and they identified certain areas based on a list of criteria that they had to determine, you know, which place was going to be the best, and they set aside areas that were that are going to stay as traditional housing areas that maintain the same quality of the town and not disturb that. And essentially, they were using Route 4, 202, and 5 as the industrial corridors, and trying to base the location of the parks off from that. Some of the other things that they discussed while I was there was the future need for some type of wastewater system and wastewater disposable areas, and how that was going to impact the community as a whole. And so I thought, well, you know, it was put on by the Sewell Company, and for the time I was there, I thought it was very informative. And maybe the other selectmen could elaborate, because like I said, I had to leave for another meeting, as I think Selectman Gerard had to leave as well for the 12-town group meeting. So if any of you guys care to jump in.
Go ahead.
I applaud 2020. Now they're talking about things that are inevitable, not necessarily in 3 years, but in 5, 10, 20 years. The town continues to grow. And now let me digress a minute. When I first came here about 35 years ago, the town had about 2,400 people. We weren't talking about wastewater systems, or there was some rumbles about water because of contamination in South Waterboro. But now that we're 7,000, 7,500 people, it's gotten crowded enough that you have individual people with wells, and when the town is more densely populated around the lake here, that there's going to come a time when those wells are jeopardized by sewerage. So it's coming, and we need to start really looking at it. And you can't stick your head in the sand because it's expensive. And you're not talking about $10,000 here and $10,000 there. You're talking 10 million here and 10 million there in order to do this, but it's coming. So now's the time to start really thinking about it and start to plan. The Sewell Company really has gone the next step, just saying it's coming, to saying, here's the parts of town that the business park would look best. Here's the parts of town that if you have a wastewater treatment plant, this is where it's going to be best situated. And then there's the option too, is that you do more town water, then you can put off wastewater a little bit more, because the two are incompatible, waste and water. So if you get water and you're not coming out of a well, then you can contaminate a little bit more. So anyway, all that was, I found very interesting last night. And it just kind of said, okay, here's where we are, look in the mirror, and you've got to start thinking about this.
Yeah, to go one step further, they encouraged and said it was actually necessary that the town and the water district be working together.
Yeah.
And we need to solve the water problem here. Because underneath the current system, there isn't a lot of water. And before we have growth, we need to identify water sources. And one thing leads to another. In other words, you can't have growth without water, but you can have water with growth beforehand. So there's a lot to think about.
Okay, anything else, Gordon?
No.
All right, Nancy.
Sorry, I just had to make a note. Julie's only here until Thursday, so I keep making notes. I gotta make sure I check with her. The auditor was in Thursday and Friday of last week to do his annual before town meeting to estimate on balances. He says we are, quote, in good shape. He was going to take it, I thought I was going to have the final copy tonight, but he didn't email it to me. There was a couple of adjustments that I had suggested to him. It was, the spending was in this one, but the revenue was over here. So it looks like the expense was in the hole, so he's just got to close that gap up. And he sent some journal entries to Julie, and she got them done today. Otherwise than that, I'm busy with getting ready for town meeting, and starting this week, we're both going to have a treasurer, Julie Giles, and our general assistance administrator, Nancy Johnson, out for surgeries. Nancy's out starting tomorrow, and Julie is out starting Friday. And I think they're both out for about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. So
Well, that'll make it challenging around here, won't it?
yes, it is. I'll tell you. It's like, yeah. That's what as I go along, I think of notes and I write them down. I want to make sure that I get it down pat on how to do this. And
Anything else?
that's it.
All right. New business, item 1, we have no need to any further action with regards to that. We did have a meeting with the Senator Attorney earlier this evening, but we'll forego any decisions at this point. Item number 2, discuss and vote to approve the renewal of a state liquor license for a restaurant for malt, spirituous, and vinous for the Asian Taste Restaurant. What is the
So
board's
moved.
pleasure?
Second.
Any discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Item 3 would be to approve the renewal of a state liquor license for a restaurant for malt and vinous products for the Blast for the Past. What is the board's pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
I noticed that they've
You got a
started
second
up
table.
their drive-in nights again.
Have there, I'm not sure that we've seen any problems, or?
Well, we did last year, and then
Yeah,
it was the
well,
last, so
right.
this is just the first of
Okay.
this year.
Yeah, I believe it was left. They was going to work with Sean.
So, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Old business, just to review, to discuss town charter implementation process. I think we're, the next few nights we'll be doing interviews for town administrator position, job descriptions, I believe, are working, public works. Did Matt get a hold of you, David?
No?
Okay. He's gleaned some information out of some of the stuff that we've been doing,
Okay.
and has some input on public works conversions. And then the bylaws and policies. Other warrants and bills for payroll, to entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes of the May 17th regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Everybody was here, right? Let's go on to next week. What is the prevailing opinion? Do you want to, we do have a early executive session. We had 2 executive sessions scheduled to discuss employee contracts. However, we've had a legal issue that has to be resolved or at least discussed with the town attorney. So unless people want to show up before 5 o'clock, we're going to end up pushing the 2 executive sessions that we originally had scheduled. We'll push those out. If not, somebody will at least maybe able to squeeze in one of those, although I'm not sure that there is an issue that we couldn't move them both a week.
I'd hold them off a week.
Okay, so we will deal exclusively with the attorney. Any other suggestions, recommendations, or needs for the warrant? If not, we might be able to quickly go through our business section. Who's up next week? Assessor, Parks and Rec, and Old Home Days?
We're gonna wanna get out of here early if we
Right,
wanna go to the.
well, that's what I'm just trying to say is that, maybe we do roll everything a week, so that those that wanna get to the, RSU 57
I didn't
budget.
schedule any reports on the 28th, so we can just bump those.
Okay, so we'll just bump them to the 28th. And we'll keep a very, very small business, conduct business, and then should be out of here well before. It's only over to the middle school anyway, so.
Yeah, but we
Okay.
need time to register.
Right. All right, if everybody's amenable to that, that's where we'll go. If something comes up, we'll have to discuss it, Christina, or whether or not we stick it on here or not. Week's action list, I think we kind of jumped here, but the week's action list, I think we're all set on. Items needing signature, warrants and bills of payroll, and the minutes of the May 7th meeting. Just quickly reminders, planning board tomorrow night here in this room. Community Garden Committee Monday at 5 p.m. The old town hall. We will be back here next week with the executive session at 5 and meeting to follow at 6. Community Garden Committee meeting Wednesday, May 22nd. At 6 p.m. there's a meeting in the old town hall, and at 7 p.m. there's a workshop. So they're gonna meet twice next week? Is that okay?
Can I ask Nancy, how are we doing on plants there? Are there plants to be
Yes.
sold? And-
Yes, we're going to have them at the workshop on the 22nd, which is going to be very interesting. It's going to be a gentleman from Kennybunk Community Garden, and he specializes in square foot gardening.
Good.
Gus is very informed, he's just full of information, and we're not sure, he might do some hands-on out here, so I suggested my plot, so he could do square. But
Maybe you ought to let him do your son-in-law's lawn, so he work him to death. My goodness.
we have plans, and we're talking about having another plant sale sometime in June.
Great.
All right, planning board meeting next Wednesday night, the 22nd, so they get meetings 2 weeks in a row? Okay. And we probably should have had that discussion, we did attend that workshop last week on cisterns.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
With the planning board, and I think they've at least come out of that with some direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we got over the hump on that
Yeah.
one.
Senior luncheon, the Snowmobile Club on May 23rd at 11:30 a.m. Old Home Days Committee, May 23rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Old Town Hall. Old Home Days Committee still looking for help for this summer's event. Also on the 23rd, Library Board of Trustees at the library. May 25th, 8:30 a.m., which is Saturday, the cribbage tournament over at the town hall. And May 28th will be our last meeting of the month at 6 p.m. on here in this room on the 28th, which probably will start at 5 with a couple of executive sessions. Anything else that I missed? Sensing not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any
Come on,
discussion?
David.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you and good night. Don't forget to sign